Hello, hello. Welcome into the Holy Harlot podcast. This is the sanctuary for the untamed and the sacred. My name is MaryLisa, your guide into the realms of embodied pleasure, divine feminine power, and nervous system liberation. Here we merge mysticism and science, awaken the codes of ancient powers that have always been yours. If you're ready to turn your body into a living portal, regulate your nervous system, and step fully into your magnetic power, welcome in. Don't forget that these videos are ad-free, so share them with as many people as possible. Spread the word. Today, episode 23, I am joined by Dr. Celisa Flores. And I'm going to give you her intro and then tell you how we got connected because, again, I just think it's so magic. And I knew immediately when I was like, I want this podcast to continue that I wanted to reach out to her specifically. So Celisa Flores is a PsyD and has traditional lineage of plant medicine and has worked as a therapist, program director, harm reductionist, and clinical outreach professional in a wide variety of mental health and substance use disorder treatment settings. She is a birth and an end-of-life doula, drawing upon a variety of modalities to support self-empowerment and recovery. Well known to the Southern California mental health community, her role has included national and international training and speaking engagements on eating disorders, psychedelic healing, mindfulness, trauma-sensitive yoga, body acceptance, and reciprocity in medicine work. Celisa has completed the MAPS training in MDMA-associated therapy and currently directs clinical outreach at Lido Wellness Center, a trauma-focused mental health treatment program in Newport Beach. Holla! Welcome in.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yes. I'm really glad that it was a yes on both ends because you, we got connected somehow. I know you know people that I know down in Orange County.
Yeah.
And I needed your help at one point.
Yes, yes.
So I went on my first mushroom ceremony. The ceremony was beautiful. The integration was very difficult for me. And I was moving through a lot of grief for several months, just kind of face down in a lot of heavy emotions. And my friend was like, you got to reach out to Celisa. And so I did.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh,
And I'm so happy that you did.
yeah, yeah. So, do you want to kind of tell us maybe what brought you into this realm?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I have a background in, my grandmother was a plant medicine healer, and I really felt like I needed to finish like what I thought of was real school to before I could like reinvigorate what that meant, or really even understand what that connection and lineage was. So after I finished school, like at that time, I had already done trainings as a yoga instructor and meditation and end of life and birth doula, and all of these things just felt so disjointed. And I'm like, I don't know, they're just things I'm interested in. And I found myself at a conference on psychedelic science. And from that moment on, I was like, oh, I get it. I understand why all of these trainings were necessary. I understand how this all works together. And it just, everything kind of felt in alignment since then.
Yeah, yeah. Can you mentioned that your was it your grandmother that
Yes.
was, can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, my grandmother was a plant medicine healer in the Central Valley. She actually died when I was really young. So I
Mhm.
don't have a lot of her like teachings directly, just because she died when I was pretty young.
Mhm.
So a lot of like what I learned about her specific lineage was like through stories and teachings and like knowing what plants and herbs she was gathering for what purpose and like researching those to find out like what plants these are and what that even looks like. And so my adult life has been like I will find these plants and like grow them everywhere I live because that that's my like connection, my tether to the lineage that I know is always part of me.
Yeah, I think that's really potent to have that direct line of contact of cellular information, because while I do believe that the people born on the Americas have karma with that land, not a lot of us can say that we have that direct lineage, that direct connection.
Mm.
So that's pretty powerful. So I just kind of want to get into. Uh, I heard Bezel Vanderkirk speak recently, not in person, but at the psychiatrists' function in, gosh, what it was in England,
Oh,
Oxford,
okay.
and he wrote "The Body Keeps the Score" and helped write DSM. But he mentioned, and that kind of stuck with me, that mushrooms are not like an intro to psychedelic work. I was wondering what your opinion on that was.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. He is also a researcher, and he has done a lot of research with the MDMA trials. Um, and so his involvement has very much been in MDMA assisted psychotherapy. And I think that that is really great and powerful medicine and can be really healing in a therapeutic context. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that it has to be one or the other, but I think either way, it should be in some supported container, right? I would not encourage people as their first step to take most medicines without support, guidance, containment. A community even could be helpful. So I think all of those pieces are important. Um, and maybe in a from a clinical stance, um, MDMA is very predictable, right? It is medicine that is made in a laboratory, so it's super predictable. We know what to expect. We know what duration to expect, generally speaking. Um, we know the risk factors that are associated with like any medication interactions, and those are pretty consistent. Mushrooms grow in the wild, and if somebody tells you like a banana has 15 calories, well, one banana might have 15 calories, another banana might have 30 calories or 12 calories. Like they're just plants that grow, and there's variation based on sunlight and based on types of strains and things like that. So psilocybin is definitely more unpredictable. It just in like even its dosage for different people and different strains and things like that. So I could see how like it definitely needs more support and containment around it.
What I found is kind of a calling to work with psilocybin, with the mushrooms, the mother. And I would say that I went into it without enough respect. I went into it without enough understanding. And I have grace for myself because there's not a lot to go on
Mhm.
out there. And one thing you told me when you were trying to help me piece my emotions back together is that Mama Mushroom has a consciousness. She is a teacher. It just doesn't, that it's not a thing you ingest and something happens. Like she's working you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I I would say that my community has maybe 30% of them are in some sort of microdose or understanding of at least mushrooms. What would you say to the person out there who has no context, no understanding? Why might they want to explore or be open to this?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that I think all medicines have great potential. Um, and they're not going to be for everyone, right? Like no medication is for everyone. Antidepressants, if somebody has had a history of depression, antidepressants create neuroplasticity in the brain, but it takes usually 6 to 8 weeks for us to see that happen, right? So people that are trying an antidepressant may not see much happening for the first 3 or 4 weeks and feel kind of frustrated that nothing's really changed. Psychedelics, including psilocybin, create a significant impact of neuroplasticity immediately. So within hours, the brain is in a different state. So we have a great potential for change and shift and more flexibility. Um, and that's part of the reason why the support and containment can be so helpful, because we want your brain to grow and change. We don't want you to miss the potential of this. Um, and so therapists are helpful, facilitators are helpful, community is helpful, like all of these things. Just like if you're taking an antidepressant, it's much more effective if you pair it with therapy.
Totally agreed. I have some friends up here right now who we are lucky in Portland and in Oregon. We have a lot of availability here. But so a lot of my friends do it mostly recreationally. There's not a lot of like ceremony involved. And I can see how just zoomed out, because, you know, I used to do it like that when I was in college, how they're not getting the potential benefit when you're still in that recreation, which recreation, being able to recreate and have fun is also important. But so can you talk about that window of integration and what you're hinting on?
Yeah, so with any psychedelic, there is a window of what's called neuroplasticity. So the brain is more flexible. It has more capacity to access all of its potential.
Hmm.
Um, and at the same time, if you just go right back to all the things that you were doing right before, your brain is just going to go right back to doing all of the things you were before. And I think a lot of this comes down to intention. If your intention was to have fun and enjoy it for this time period, great. You can accomplish that mission. If your plan and intention is to address the depression or address trauma or address something else, you may not get that if you don't process through what happened during the ceremony or during the session. Because there's lots of things that come up, lots of visuals for people, or thoughts or images that people have, or memories that could be really helpful in helping people to uncover, like, why have I been so stuck in the place that I don't want to be in? And so having kind of, like you said, a third party zoomed out perspective can help you to connect what is it that would help you to shift this place that you're not wanting to be in anymore.
I think that there's still a lot of fear around this idea of these being, you know, class or schedule, whatever it's called, Schedule One drugs, and they're not available. And we are losing a lot of trust for our government very quickly. And so I wonder what kind of effect that will have on people kind of breaking into this. But from what I've seen in my life and, you know, the amount of research that I've been able to access on this, like you said, that amount of serotonin flush kind of like fills in those brain crevices, and then you get to make a more impactful decision of like, oh, it filled in that crevice of self-doubt. So now I'm going to actively the next day choose reframes or working out or something that is more beneficial.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think so. One of the really important things that I took away from working in eating disorder treatment, our brain makes its same choices, right? Like those sort of ruts that it gets stuck in. That is an effort to conserve calories, right? Our brain is just making decisions based on calorie conservation, right? Because this is energy. So
Oh my
it's
goodness.
super interesting because we think about people that want to make all these changes, but they're not consuming like enough fat or enough nutrients. They're like, oh, I'm fasting or whatever. And like those are all fine interventions, but if you want your brain to change, it needs sufficient calories. Our brain uses 30% of the energy that we consume, which is a lot for one organ, right? Like if we think about the whole body, 30% of that energy is just going to the brain. And that's super, super important for us to recognize in this integration period. When we want to make brain changes, you have to nourish your brain. Your brain is made of fat and sugar. And so we need like complex carbs and fat to help support our brain in making the decisions we want it to make. So a psychedelic, that much neuroplasticity all at once, just kind of clears everything out, smooths everything over so that you have the opportunity to make new connections and make new choices And at the same time, like you have to actively make those choices and you have to help support your brain with the nutrients and hydration it needs to continue on that pathway.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you just kind of really blew my mind right there. I wrote down brain makes calorie decisions.
Yes.
That's so incredible. And I think one of my favorite things in, well, first, I used to think that my ego thought, okay, well, this is like some sort of miracle drug that just makes you smarter, gives you more access to everything. Like, I'm going to be an amazing psychic. I'm going to be an amazing intuitive all of a sudden. And what she's really done for me is kick down the fucking scaffolding in my brain, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, just like you said, it requires effort, intention, all sorts of supportive framework in order to make the changes that it provides you with.
Yeah.
Ooh, so, my understanding is that, so I've done two kind of ceremonial grade doses, and then I've been working on a microdose schedule for about 4 months now, and I've noticed such great improvements. But I was so sensitive. Like the dosing that I've seen online was like not okay for me. It was 0% okay. And I'm wondering if you have any insight into that kind of information.
Yeah, I mean, so it is a little bit complicated because on one hand, like some of this is research and scientifically based on what they give people and where they see a response, right? Um, Oftentimes we will see people in recreational doses going way over and beyond what that is. Things that they've heard from podcasts, things that they've heard from, different sources online that they are like, oh, I'm going to take large doses and just sit in the dark by myself, and that's going to resolve all of my problems, right? And I love that idea, and that's not quite it, right?
Did you pull
And
that from
because
my brain, Celisa?
yeah, yeah, that is. I mean, I think that in some ways it's so interesting, but I think if you could have thought yourself out of this by now, you would have, right? So let's let go of some of the like, this is my fault and the self-blame that goes around. Like, I just have to work harder or think harder or something like that. The reality is like your brain is making these choices because that's the easiest least caloric dense route from A to B, right? Even if it doesn't make rational sense, your brain is just like, we already have this pattern, so it's fastest, easiest for us to keep going down that pattern. Um, so I think it's important to just kind of recognize that what one person needs may not be what another person needs. But a therapeutic dose can be as low as 1 gram to 2.5 grams is typically the target window for a lot of the research studies.
Okay.
Most people, like I said, in recreational settings are going far beyond that. And the brain really doesn't need that high of doses
I love that. I love
for
that.
change. Yeah.
Because what I've seen on several of my sources, which just tells you how different the information is out there, is that a therapeutic dose is 3 to 5,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that
Yes.
was not
So
the deal.
yeah, so there's more research. I think that initially that was the target dose,
Yeah.
that they were giving everyone 3 to 5 grams of mushrooms, and that's a little bit of a higher dose. But since then, they've been able to scale it back. And the reality is, the longer that you work with mushrooms, the less of a dose you even need to have a significant response. So people that have OCD, which is very difficult to treat clinically and with medication, it's a difficult diagnosis to treat. They've seen that as low as 1 gram, people are having significant improvements in their
Mm,
brain, in their behaviors, in their ability to manage this diagnosis and symptoms. So it doesn't require a large dose.
yeah, I love that. So we did kind of touch on some of the biological benefits, but I want to get back to that,
Mhm.
though I have kind of like a fun like selfish question for you, which is like, what is your favorite psychedelic friend right now, and why? And then I want to hear about what you think about the spirit of each of those helpers.
Mm-hmm. I think that I always have such a strong affinity to mushrooms, right? Like they're my favorite teacher. I feel like when I need to just relax and have fun, that's kind of where my brain goes. And when I need to do deep work, I get that handed to me too, right? And
Mhm.
if I am misaligned in what I think I need versus like, or what I want versus what I actually need, the mushrooms are very quick to clarify, like, nope, that's not what we'll be doing today.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
actually just, maybe it's just have fun, or maybe it's just um, go out and garden or sit at the beach. And those may be the things that I needed that I didn't realize I needed until the mushrooms kind of presented me with, this is what we're doing today.
Hmm.
Um, so I have a strong affinity for mushrooms. I have worked with almost all psychedelic medicines and for different reasons. And I think that there's so much value to all of them. But again, it depends on the person, right? Like, not everybody is set up to take a 12-hour LSD journey. It's intense, it's high demand. It can really put a lot of demand on like the body. If you are somebody that tends towards hypoglycemia or low blood sugar, like it can be really taxing because most people are fasting throughout that duration of time. And as I mentioned before, your brain is using a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So our brain is soaking up all of these sugars during this duration of time. And lots of people, like not lots, but I have definitely heard of a number of cases where people's blood sugar drops either mid or at the end of a psychedelic journey. And it can be really jarring,
Hmm.
and really scary for the people around them as
Yeah.
well.
Is it the same mechanism, LSD?
So LSD is also a serotonergic psychedelic. So yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell me about ketamine? It's been kind of popular lately.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with people that are using ketamine specifically to address treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, PTSD. Um, there's a couple of important pieces, right? So as far as route of administration, IV is the only way that's going to make the changes in the brain that you might want to see if you have treatment-resistant depression, treatment-resistant anxiety, or PTSD. And that's just because of the way that it's bioavailable. It's 100% bioavailable IV. It's only about 20 to 30% bioavailable intranasal or through lozenges that some people use. There is value to using lodgings or the nasal. Some people will use it for therapy. So the dose is low enough that you could actually do therapy while on a low dose of ketamine. And for some people, that helps reduce like barriers or difficulties in communicating things that they've had maybe with a therapist. This also works really well with like couples therapy and low dose ketamine. That can be a really exciting way for people to be more vulnerable, be more open with their partners.
So it
Um,
like gives you more space.
yes. And
Okay.
like decreases some of the fear centers and resistance to talking about some of these things, right? Um,
Okay.
Higher doses of ketamine, it's not recommended that you do therapy at that time. It's really kind of a waste of time because it's a sub-therapeutic or a sub-anesthetic dose. It's a pretty high dose. You could have a conversation, but it would be really difficult and it would be mostly nonsensical. Um, so the work that I do with people that are working with ketamine, I usually will see them within 72 hours of their IV dose for
Okay.
therapy. So, again, we talk about neuroplasticity. Every substance has like a window, and I kind of think of it as the longer the therapeutic or the psychedelic experience, the longer the window of neuroplasticity. So, for ketamine that lasts about an hour, we have like 36, 72 hours. It's kind of a small window.
Yeah.
With psilocybin, that's a little bit longer of a journey. We usually think about a week. With LSD, we think maybe 2 weeks or 2 to 4 weeks for some people.
Okay. Okay.
So the windows are bigger depending on how long the journey is, But again, like maybe you don't need that. Maybe it's that there's like one thing that you're addressing at a time, which is probably a smart idea. Um, but I would say, always having that point of contact outside to kind of help support you in making sense of what you're like, how did this journey fit in line with your intentions?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And how are you? I'm skipping ahead because, listening to you talk about how you work with people, how do you currently work with people?
Mhm. A couple of ways. So I work in trauma treatment. So I work with people as an individual therapist there. Also, like if they are using ketamine, we'll do therapy immediately after their sessions. Usually IV ketamine is booked twice a week. Um, so I will see them twice or three times a week to kind of help prepare them before and after every session.
Hmm.
Um, I also run a nonprofit that offers community integration circles monthly. So I do that, and that's pretty low cost, open to the community. And then I have just a small practice where I do like more integration coaching for people who are either on like long-term work with psychedelics or ketamine or just kind of maintenance in between those sessions.
Yeah, I have a few of my clients right now who are on the path of microdosing, and I know that they are probably excited to hear that you have there are ways to kind of work with a teacher like yourself to actually make those changes and not let that window pass them by.
Right, right. Yeah. And I think it's so valuable, even, whether people are dosing at large doses or small doses, the changes are happening. So I think it's really important to have some support and containment, whether that's in community, whether that's an individual therapist or coach, just somebody that is a point of contact that can help sustain and direct the changes in the direction that you want them to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about some of the neurological benefits of psilocybin and even other psychedelics. I kind of want to just tell you some of the things that my clientele is dealing with. And because I really do, I know in my heart and in my spirit that mushrooms can help with all of it, but I just want to get a grounded perspective
Yeah, of
on that.
course.
So, a lot of the women that I work with are dealing with kind of the good girl syndrome, like the body has become tense over time. We're working with autoimmune conditions, unable to sleep well. They feel like they've lost themselves. They're like looking out of a shaded kind of dark box. There's a lot of feeling like disconnection from the body.
Hmm. Hmm.
What are your thoughts on how psychedelics or mushrooms could impact that?
Yeah, I think, it's super interesting because when I hear somebody is on a microdosing journey, that could be mushrooms. And then there also could be other medicines that people are microdosing for specific causes, right?
Mhm.
Um, Psilocybin, I think, is fantastic with microdosing for mood disorders. Um, Mood, anxiety, emotional states, very good for that.
Mhm.
I think ayahuasca microdosing can be very helpful for like physical bodily states that are, like you said, stuck, um, uh, female like menstrual issues, hormonal issues. For some reasons, I have seen like this. There's a really interesting researcher who has done all of the research on microdosing. His name is James Fadiman. And one of the things he talks about, so I heard him at a conference and I said, somebody asked him, what's the most unexpected outcome that you had heard from all these microdosing trials? And he said, I kept having women come up and say that they had spontaneous resolution to their menstrual problems that they had had for their whole life.
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, that's really fascinating. I'm going to try this. So I spoke with a woman and she said, oh, if you want to resolve menstrual issues, you need to microdose ayahuasca. Um, and these things like resolve. I'm not the only person, but I've known several cases. I know a medical doctor who has done research kind of around this area of people having physical symptoms resolved with ayahuasca, whether it's large dose or microdosing.
So does ayahuasca work on the central nervous system? Like what's happening?
I wish I could say that we know. We don't know
You don't
completely
know.
what is happening
Yeah.
with why this happens, right? Like there have been studies around people's DNA shifting before and after ayahuasca changes, right? Like they are taking cheek swabs of DNA and like this has shifted somehow in the process of ayahuasca. So we don't fully understand what this is doing exactly. Um, but it's a spiritual solution to
Yeah.
a physical problem.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I didn't even know
and
you could microdose ayahuasca.
so usually what people microdose is B-cappy, which is like they make it in tinctures, and it does not contain any of the psychoactive, right? The psychoactive parts is a combination of two plants.
Okay.
So this is just the vine of the plant, and there are there's not psychoactive effects to it. You can microdose it. Usually people will follow kind of a similar microdose protocol to mushrooms, whether it's every third day or every fourth day, or some people, ayahuasca, you can microdose every day.
Hmm.
It's a challenging microdose, right? It brings a lot of emotion, whatever's kind of right underneath the surface, it brings to the surface. So it can be challenging in that way. It definitely may be something that people need to like work more closely with a coach because it can be overwhelming, especially if you're planning to go to work during these same times, like, oh, I have a lot of feelings that I have to try to navigate while I'm going to work on a regular basis. But I've heard, seen, read, personally experienced like significant lifelong changes from a single course of a microdose or a large dose of ayahuasca.
Wow.
And then also people tend to microdose LSD for attention, focus, productivity, creativity. Um, so there's lots of things you could microdose.
Yeah.
Um, and they have benefits for different reasons. If your intention is to microdose psilocybin for physical problems, just set that as your intention and, be clear that this is what I want to see change and make sure that you're tracking before and after on the day-to-day basis because 30, 60, 90 days down the road, you may forget like how severe your symptoms were when you started versus where they're at now. And it just kind of, because the change is so gradual, just feels like I don't think anything happened. So that's another place where that third party perspective can be helpful.
Yeah. I I've been wanting to take the ayahuasca keeps presenting herself and I've rejected it twice and I know I'll be ready when I'm ready. I have this I've never even been able to smoke marijuana because it has this kind of effect of what happens when any substance takes me over is I fight like a cat.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I would really love to. I understand that they have their own consciousnesses, and I think that that's when I started to really understand and receive more benefits from my psilocybin journey. Is when I started to talk to her, and you told me that you were like, "Ask the mushrooms," and I was like, "Honey, I what?"
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think it's important for people to recognize that while this may be a separate entity, it's important you can develop a relationship. This is not one-sided. You don't have to take everything as it's presented. You can negotiate, and that's important, right? So if you are feeling too much or too overtaken, set the intention like I need less. I need
Yeah.
what I can handle today. And that's enough. That's it. That's all I want. And it can change your relationship with microdosing
Yes,
or large dosing.
that was a fundamental shift for me when you told that to me. Just tell her to turn it down. And I was like, I can say that, like, and it's so true on such a psychic, intuitive, spiritual level. Like it's a collaboration.
Yes.
Nothing
Yes.
is out there to harm us, especially when we bring our consciousness to the forefront and our seniority to the forefront. And that was really epic.
Yeah, 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 I agree. I think it's so important just to recognize like this is a relationship and it's reciprocal, and we can ask for what we need.
Yeah, and it's just making me think of some of the people I have in my life who are using the psilocybin therapy and aren't seeing the results. And I'm like, I wonder what their relationship is, right? Like, are you giving to her as much as she's trying to give to you? Because kind of like what we talked about earlier, to me, the giving to the relationship would be like, this is what I'm implementing as change. This is how much I documented. This is what I diaried. I talked to Dr. Celisa, I reached out to a friend. Like, it's
I
how much
sat
are you
outside
putting
in nature.
in?
Yeah. Right. Like all of those things exactly is what you're putting in, right? Like I nourished my brain, I hydrated my body, I moved today, I connected with nature, I sat outside, right? Like all of these things are the reciprocity in the relationship.
Absolutely. I want to know what your thoughts on bad trips are, quote unquote.
Yeah. So I think I don't want to minimize anybody's experience that there are things that can happen that are outside of the medicine that can be damaging, right? Like there are things that can be harmful. And I also think um, bad trips can give us just as much insight as good trips, right? Like we can identify, like there was some lesson, there was some wisdom, there was something in my discomfort. And maybe it was just the wisdom that, like, I am going to fight like a cat when this tries to come over me. And like, that's okay. That's good information. Like, great. You have some autonomy and you want your spirit shows up when something tries to take over, and like that's valuable and that's important information about you. And also like that could be in a good trip, that could be in a bad trip, but it's helpful to kind of look from a, like you said earlier, zoomed out perspective of what is happening here and what's the information that I'm getting, right? Can I just look at this from a factual state of like what were the things that happened, what were the things that I saw, what did my body feel, what were the images or memories that came up outside of my interpretation of them, right? Because we
Yeah.
want to make like this is good, this is bad, and everything is maybe somewhere in between.
And I think you're bringing up something important, which is that storyteller, right? Especially with all of that new serotonin and that kind of conceptualized metaphor of like that flattened space in our brain where we get to make new decisions. That the story that we tell ourselves is what gets encoded into that default mode network, and then that's what will become the new
Right.
story in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months.
Right.
It's powerful.
And it could be like the same story, right? Like this is the same, like, oh, something bad always happens to me, and this is just reinforcing that, right? Like the story part of that just gets reinforced, and we're just right back to where we were before we started this.
Totally.
So that's where the value of can I find some community to help me maybe make sense of this in a way that I might not be seeing?
Yes. We really are in that era. We are in the era of community. We're in the Aquarius age. We're really, really needing to look outside of the structures and into the community. And I know that that can be so hard for people sometimes. Speaking from my personal experience, I really had to work at it to be able to request help because a lot of us are overperformers, overdoers, like we get caught up. And women like you have changed the game for me.
Mm,
Absolutely.
mm, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm gonna share my most recent
Mhm.
story
Yeah.
with you about my ceremony, and I do this to kind of share what it's like inside of a potential ceremony, which does not mean it will be like this for anyone else. But we did talk a lot about the neurological processes, the biological processes, but it's very spiritual,
Mhm.
right? And so I've went on that 1 gram journey that took me to the depths of myself. And I remember you saying the grief that you're feeling is probably not just yours, it's ancestral. Like mushrooms are underground. You're having to like unearth all this stuff because you asked for a happier life. Okay, well, grief has to get out of the way. And so after I spoke to you and I really started more deeply integrating, I started the microdose journey. Like lots of respect, lots of questions, lots of journaling, lots of understanding, built that relationship. And I've been working up towards a larger than 1 gram dose. And so on 111, I was like, this will be the day.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I had a beautiful lunch with a friend. My stomach was pretty much almost empty by the time I started ingesting. I set the space, Palo Santo'd, got my shades on, was just like playing the John Hopkins music for psychedelic therapy. And I tried to eat it slow because I know I have that like cat clawing effect when I feel things start to take on. However, when it first hit, and it was a Oaxacan mushroom. It's
Mhm.
my first time working with Oaxacan.
Mhm.
And I, it, I was terrified.
Mm.
I was so scared. And this is a good story, I promise. But for 4 hours, I was up and I was moving my body and I was like in and out of consciousness, being like, should I reach out to someone? And then my higher self being like, MaryLisa, you took mushrooms, you're okay. Like, surrender, not knowing how to surrender, and just this like back and forth going on inside my body. But
Mhm.
what I saw was 3D Mary Lisa fighting for her life, which is what she's used to doing, even when there's no threat. And then I saw higher self Mary Lisa crying over me with my Oaxacan mushroom guide. He was there. And they were just kept saying, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I was like calling out for my mother. Like it was crazy.
Mhm.
But coming out of that and having prepared, my understanding of mushrooms really let me know, like, wow, I think she squeezed out all the fear. I think she took my nervous system and she wrung out the things that like cannot come with me.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to
Mhm.
say that it came out really well, right? That
Yeah.
was scary. That was the scariest I've ever been, but it was necessary for me.
Mhm. Yeah, that is beautiful. I love that there was a healing experience, and it makes sense, right? Like, I think that a lot of us have reverence and a healthy fear of using mushrooms every single time, right? Like, every time I take a psychedelic, I still have some fear because I know I've had those experiences where, like, this is painful and brutal, and I just sobbed for 4 hours straight, and like, like that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know like that could be what happens today.
Yeah.
I'm prepared for it anyways, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna trust that 3D me and higher me and the guides and the ancestors are we're gonna contain this enough so that I will be okay and I'll get what I need out of this. And it sounds like you had that really beautiful healing opportunity.
That kind of stuff fits my paradigm, and I'm like really, doing my best to come out of that kind of paradigm, like pain for pleasure and having to pay for things and allow them to not be so difficult. You were someone that highlighted that for me as well, but I just wanted to highlight for the listeners that it's not to be trifled with. And with all the amount of respect, like you said, you can have all like education on it as well. And sometimes she will just kick your scaffolding over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like usually from a removed place, like months down the line, I can see like, no, that's what I needed. I needed to let go of this scaffolding that I was so attached to. It was a shaky foundation to begin with, but it was the one I built. and it was the one I had, so I was like clutching onto it for dear life. But the reality is, like, it was time to kick it down. Like, I mean, it didn't take much to kick it down, right? And so to just do that and start over and recognize, like, oh, I could build something so much better now that I let go of that scaffolding that I was
Totally.
holding on to.
Absolutely.
So I, from a removed place, right? But in the moment, it's like,
Mhm.
oh, this is so scary and I hate it. I don't want to do.
Yeah, there was like this spilled like charcoal powder all over my room as I tried to figure out how to get myself out of context, but it was it was also I knew I had been there before, and I
Mm-hmm.
knew it was this such incredible feeling where I read this kind of theory in this book where like when you go through hell, you always have an anchor, and it's this other version of you that knows you're about to go through hell and like will anchor you, and that there's like a mantra. And
Mm-hmm.
so while I was there, I kept repeating the same four words over and over again. Nonsensical, like January 11 cat, you know? And it was just it was just the most wild, beautiful, what the only way to get this type of woman out of her own fucking way,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it was just, it was poetic.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that they were able to reach you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good time. But microdosing, on the other hand, is at least in my experience and from what I've heard from other people, is you go about your day. Like you pick up your kids, you go grocery shopping, you write
Yes.
emails, and it's still giving you that kick of serotonin so that it's easier for you to make different thought patterns, different emotional patterns.
Right. Yeah, I think so microdosing is supposed to be sub-threshold. And again, there's a lot of wild information on the internet that is like I will read things and on the back of a package it says what a microdose is and I'm like that is absolutely not a microdose. That is not going to be a microdose. You should not go to work that day. Like you shouldn't drive this day. Like this is a lot. That's a lot to take in. So sub-therapeutic dose of mushrooms is zero point 0.1 to zero
Hmm.
point 0.2.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty small range, right, of a gram or milligrams, 10 to 20 milligrams is a low dose. So it's 1/10 to 1/20th of what a dose would be. And if a dose that creates a response is 1 to 2.5 grams, like, yep, that's the range. For like microdosing LSD, it's much lower, right? Because they're micrograms.
Mm-hmm.
So usually it's just a tincture and it's a few drops of this tincture. The same is true with ayahuasca. They're made in tinctures so that you could take, even if you're somebody that's very sensitive, you may want to microdose 1 drop a day until you see how you feel, right?
Yeah.
If you are naive to psychedelics, you may want to start on the lower dose. If you know that you are sensitive to all medications or any substance, start at the lower dose. Like it's okay. You don't have to have a huge dose to have a response, um, even if you don't notice it, right? Like, so again, it's kind of like you take your vitamins every day and you don't really notice anything until you stop taking them. And when you stop taking them is when you notice, like, oh, like I got a cold immediately after I stopped taking my supplements, right?
Hmm.
Same kind of thing, which I think is why it's valuable to really make sure that you are documenting what are the reasons that I started this microdose journey. Like, what are the symptoms? What's my sleep like? What are my eating patterns like? What are my movement patterns like? Am I connecting with friends? Am I going outside? Like, document everything you can think of that's happening in your life and keep track of that, right? Like, oh, I'm actually able to get outside more, or I'm able to remember to nourish myself more often, or like have things that feel supportive to my life.
Absolutely. I think that most of the women that I talk to are around zero point 0.1 for a microdose
Mhm.
and less than or around a gram for like
Mhm.
a ceremony,
Yeah,
which is not the information that's out there.
right. it's Wild West still, right? Like
Yes.
if somebody gives you a gummy or a candy bar, like who knows? The packaging is not scientifically based for
Yeah.
sure. And it's unpredictable. So
Absolutely.
proceed with caution.
Yeah. Please do. So I want to know, I think from my first ceremony, the thing that I got was I asked too many questions of spirit and I just need to live my life. And then
Mm,
this one I'm really integrating like, oh, you've really got to just let go. Like, can you trust that we're actually caring for you? So that's
mm.
one I'm still integrating. And I'm wondering if you have like a stick out lesson in having worked with either psilocybin or any of your psychedelic friends.
Yeah. I think overall, the overall message, like I really learned to trust my intuition. And that was something I think that had been damaged throughout my life, that I was interpreting my body wrong, that I was experiencing life wrong, that everything about my interpretation was wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and I really learned that I can trust my intuition. And I have the gift of discernment to be able to identify what's mine and what's not. And it's okay for me to trust that and not have to explain it and not have to make sense of it for anyone else. It doesn't matter. My intuition has spoken and I'm okay with it. Right.
Mm,
And so that's been a really powerful, like, overall message for me to be able to carry forward. And I don't think that this is something that's unique to me, and I don't think it's unique to anyone, right? Like, I think that we all have this gift of intuition. And when somebody tells me they don't trust it, I almost feel like it's so sad because I feel like, oh, it's like you just decided you chose to not walk, right? Like you have this ability and you're just choosing to not do it because someone told you you couldn't.
mhm.
Uh, so I think that has been the most powerful piece that I've been able to kind of work with. There's lots of like, I feel like big lessons and
Yeah.
big powerful experiences that have happened and been kind of life changing for me. But I feel like that being able to trust my intuition above all else has been the most powerful shift in my world, I think.
I think that what you're saying though, it presents as a superpower. I'm fundamentally am with you on like everyone has these intuitive gifts, these psychic gifts. They are part of our energetic makeup. And still, it's so heartbreaking. And I've dealt with this myself, like where I try to bring logic alongside my intuition. Oh, you can't prove that, Mary Lisa. You don't
Mhm.
know why you feel bad around that person, like, or you should be doing that. And it's just, it's enough.
Right.
It's enough.
Yeah. Hmm.
I love that that is really integrated for you. I think that that makes you super powerful
Hmm.
and a
Hmm.
great facilitator.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. It took a lot for me to get to this place where I'm like, I
As
can
it
just
does.
trust this because I think I was a biology major. I was like really into science and I always felt like I want the evidence for this. And I was like, why?
Mm,
Why? This is enough. It doesn't matter. I don't need an explanation. Like there's a lot of things I have explanations for. And there's also things that I don't need an explanation for. I can just accept that this is the way my body feels and my body responds to certain people or experiences. My body says no, it's a no. That's
yeah.
it. Hmm.
Oof, potent. That's the
Hmm.
message that we're gonna megaphone for this
Yeah,
this
yeah.
podcast episode.
I love
Feeling
that.
something is enough.
Yes. Yeah. That is
Oh,
it.
okay. So we did. I'm going to link in the show notes how people can get in contact with you, get into those kind of community integrations, such good resources. And I'm kind of wondering, this is the Holy Harlot podcast and, priestess codes, pleasure, intuition, archetypes. I'm wondering, what is your inner Holy Harlot message today?
I think we kind of touched on this earlier, but I think it's always important to really reiterate that recreation is medicine.
Mm,
And if that's what you need today, that's what you need today. I am here for it. Your body is here for it. Your lineage is here for it, right? Like
Yeah.
you're here to enjoy. It doesn't
Pleasure is
always have to be
medicine,
work.
fun is
Pleasure.
medicine.
Yeah. We don't have to stay stuck on like always working and always, like you said, the good girl syndrome of like, I got to do more, I got to do more. Like, no, you need recreation. That is the medicine you need.
Potent,
Yeah.
really potent. Thank you so much for being here with me. I feel like I'm thinking of so many other things that I am like, episode 2 between us
Yes.
coming soon. I have so many other things I want to ask you because you are such a wealth of information, and you're so grounded and have such an open space holding container. Like I feel like I can just hop into a barrel and you're just like this, and
Come on in.
yeah, yeah. But also holding space for like that's not just your job for me, you know.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just glad to have you here,
Thank
sharing.
you. Thank you. I'm so glad to get to share this time with you.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And be kind to yourself. Listen to your inner holy harlot. And if you haven't started working with any ceremonial plant medicine and you don't have any around you, just talk to it as a spirit. Maybe welcome it, start a relationship that way because you'll still get the message. So we'll see you next time, everyone.